I see some people asking if this is a religious channel. It is a religious channel as much as many other things. We do a lot of things on this channel, but you can find us doing church Sunday mornings, roughly around 11:30.
It's so funny because my mother just sent me a text message just now, and she said, BS on today? I said,
yeah. I'm not sure we'll be able to get away from that now.
It's cutesy. Yeah. She says the one at your house? Yeah. What other one? Talk to her later. So I had a great week. I'm a guy that believes that, if you ask for things, you'll get them.
Right.
Because it was said by somebody that's never broken a promise, ask and you shall receive. And it's my desire with all of this to bring forth something that's going to benefit people that hear it, that they can take it through the week, and that a seed would be planted in your heart. And news. I'm so sick of news. I have to pay attention to it. I have to look at it. But there was a time when I first got involved with Dr. Peter Glidden, and he was telling people on his radio show about cholesterol deficiencies, right? Where we always hear that cholesterol is bad for you by the same people that are now telling you to shelter in place. I mean, they've lied about everything your whole life. Yeah. And so he gave some signs that you might have a cholesterol deficiency. And he said that if you can eat 10 eggs a day with the yolk not quite cooked solid, that would top your levels back up, and you would see different effects in your body. And so my brother and I were listeners at the time, because I was a listener to the Genesis Communications Network, and because of Alex Jones. As you can see, I'm wearing an InfoWars t-shirt. And I'm not an InfoWars regular anymore, but back then I had to listen to it, and that's how I found Dr. Peter Glidden. But we tried. I made it about a month and a half, eating 10 eggs a day, and I got well, I didn't mind. I'd carry around a bottle of Frank's Red Hot to work with me, and I would boil the eggs in the morning and eat them slowly over the course of the day. Point of this story is that there came a time for like a year after that I could not even look at an egg. I couldn't even like, I just, right? And I'm getting like that with news.
I'm getting to be the same way, to be honest with you, listening to it over and over. I know where this is going now. The anticipation of it's just leading up. It's like, damn it, I know where we're going already. Just do it.
Yeah.
So I can't with the crappy little stories. It's just ruining your psyche. So I've taken a step back from news. Today, I'm going to jump right back into the news cycle before Plaid Army tonight and throw out all the bullshit stories that have been going out. But if you want to tune into somebody that is right on the pulse of what's going on, is the Raging Humanist show, Ragecast. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I think he's doing. He doesn't mind. He loves the rage. He will rage about it all day. So anybody that used to watch me looking for the news, go over to him.
Not only that, but Jeremy is a very sincere and likable guy. You can see somebody on their YouTube channel, and a lot of times when the live light goes on, they're in a mode, and then it's not so much that they're a different person when they're not live, but when they're not switched on, it's nice to be able to get to know somebody. Do you know what I'm talking about, Derek?
Absolutely, yep. Yeah, because there is a mode that you have to go into. It's especially if you're doing a radio cast, you have to be the one talking and filling the gap the entire time. So there's a different, you're not talking back and forth sort of thing. With that on our mind, I recently just ordered 2 of these, and you, being in radio your whole life, might be able to tell me more about them. I got a couple of small ham radios in case this network goes down. They're Boafing. They just fit in your hand. They're great. Sean's got one out in Alberta as well. There, show that.
Boy, that
and we're going to talk back and forth.
Really come a long way.
Yeah, it's not that machine you see in your grandpa's basement taking up an entire desk with a light bulb on it, like
right. Yeah.
These are very small, fit in your plate carrier if that's where you decide to use it, fit in your pocket, and you can stay in communication with people. You do need a radio license unless you're using them from radio to radio. So that's also something I was going to look into, but I wanted to ask you, do you have your radio license?
So what we have is with being on Mojo 50, we have BMI licensing. And so all of that is taken care of. I didn't have to specifically apply for anything. That's why I'm able to do requests on Fridays and air them on iHeart and public platforms, because it's kind of like having, what do they call it here? There's a similar thing in Canada. It's SOCAN, making sure artists get paid and stuff like that. But yeah, we do have licensing, but not because I had to specifically go and get it.
Okay.
And so that's kind of one of the differences between what I do and, say, a podcaster or a YouTuber. And quite frankly, I think that when a lot of the YouTubers and people like that are shut down, I'll still be around because of
that's kind of my plan.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm hearing an echo now. Is that on your end? Oh, never mind. It's gone. Echo's gone. Yeah, that's my plan, actually. I'm going to get a radio license, and if everything goes down, I'll start broadcasting Sundays on this. Maybe I'll just throw it on once I get my radio license and run this out until because we are going to be shut down. Everything's going to be taken off the air. I don't see us being forced into a lockdown and pushed into the Great Reset without taking down communications.
It's cool. Alberta has actually really resisted on going full hog with the lockdown measures. I'm very happy to say.
I'm unhappy to say that New Brunswick has gone full commie.
Manitoba too.
Yeah, they seem to have. They have people outside LARPing as soldiers wearing full green bulletproof vests, radios, and they look like kids. They look like 20-year-old kids out there enforcing policies that they have, they're indifferent about. They don't care. They just think it's going to go away. They're out there to make a buck. They're probably making good money doing this.
That's the perfect soldiers, because kids are dumb.
Yeah.
And kids don't understand recovery time from damage sustained, right? When you get older, you kind of have more of a grasp on your own mortality and things of an eternal nature. But when you're a kid, you don't. So that's why the last thing you want is a 18-year-old with the British Army with an automatic weapon on the corner of your street. You know what I mean?
And then, let's say if things get out of control and things start going crazy, and an example needs to be made of the powers that be that are standing on the corners, well, they're going to have a lot of sympathy, because that's just going to be an 18-year-old kid. That's going to be a 20-year-old kid. So think about that before going crazy, guys. They are going to be our family members, our friends and kids in the community that are going to be out there enforcing this shit. So if you know them, go talk to their parents.
Well, that's the thing, though. If you're from, say, you're in the Canadian Forces and you're from New Brunswick, and you know that you're patrolling, say, Calgary, and people are starving, and you're supposed to shoot them when they come out of their house, you have to know that that's happening back home, too. There's probably going to be a lot of people not willing to enforce this.
I hope so. I hope there's going to be people out there like a lot of our vets. There's a lot of vets that tune into Rage's show, my show, and stuff like that. Go up and talk to these kids, because you are their peers. Go and talk to them, even if you have to wear a mask to go up and actually talk to them. Plant a seed in their brain as to what they're going to have to do in the future, because I don't think they know.
Yeah. Well, let's go on with this then. It looks like bad times all around us, but I told you the story one time about the cannibal warlords of Liberia, and that country, Liberia, what a horrible, horrible country that is. Just disgustingly gross, constant war, monkeys with syphilis running around. just a country. And here in the midst of all that, of the worst situation you could find, there's this little tiny church in the countryside, and the people are clean, they're well fed, and they just get together and praise the Lord. And in the middle of that horrible, horrible, awful situation, you have this small enclave of people that are just kind of relatively untouched by it. So, there is shelter in living for God. And by the way, I did notice there was some disparaging marks in the chat about what we're doing. And if you're here to do that, I'm glad to see you. And at least you're hearing it. You won't be able to say that you never did. So welcome to the Sunday Bible study. Let's go to Psalm 78, the book of Psalms, verse 78. The intention of this is to see what this book says, because it is the mind of God. And when I pray during the week, I ask that he would give me something to give to you, that it might produce some kind of fruit in your life that transform into a vibration in my vocal cord that you hear in your auditory canal. It hits your brain scrambles, unscrambles it, turns it into a cogent thought, and then you are faced with a choice as to whether or not I'm going to take this and use it. And so I'll be praying, and things will just kind of pop up in my head. And it was parables kept coming up, different parables. Then I was reached out to on Friday by a regular listener to my show in Florida. And he just said, I've noticed that you've been getting more biblical lately, and he said, I would really like to talk to you about it, if you don't mind. And I said, absolutely. I sent him my phone number and just said, give me a call tomorrow. I have a U.S. line that I maintain so that people in the States can call the show without getting dinged on their phone plan. And we talked for an hour, and he talked all about how he had been tricked or trapped by a lie, and that a parable set him free. A story that Jesus told, and so we can figure out the mind of God, what he likes, what he doesn't like, how to come to him, how to get something from him, how to live your life in such a way that he wants to make it better for you. Maybe save a broken family, or a broken heart, or somebody that's lost. You know what I mean? And so I heard that, and I thought, there it is. There it is. It's that same thing I've been thinking all week. The man in Florida called me out of the blue. Never spoken to him before, except when he's called into the show. And he just confirmed that I was on the right path. And God will speak to you that way. He'll do that. And all you got to do is reach out to him. We've talked to him about it before. He will respond. You just have to look for it.
For those of you out there, I'm going to suggest that you contact Mike for any questions, because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm learning here every Sunday, so don't contact me with your questions. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, just go to AmericanUckradio.com and hit the contact button, and that goes to my personal email. And lots of you have. And I remember you in the morning when I pray, when people send me emails talking about different things in their life, and we end up, I've given them my phone number, and we talk, and I lift up your name in prayer every day, and I hope to see something happen for you or somebody that you love, or some of the concerns that people have given me. Watching Tucker Carlson is not going to fix that. Having a conversation on democracy or republic, or we've been having those conversations. Let's try something new.
Yeah.
Psalm 78.
78.
Chapter 78 of the book of Psalm. You betcha.
That's a lot of chapters.
It is. While you find that, I'm just going to say a quick prayer. Lord God, thank you so much for this day that you've given us. And the world looks bad. It seems to be a very terrible situation that we're finding ourselves in. But you don't change. The more things change around us, you stay the same. Lord, I pray that you would speak. And even if there's 1 in 200 that you have something for, I would prefer something for everybody. But you know and are watching and considering everybody listening. And I pray that you'd speak to them today. Thank you. Amen. In Jesus' name.
You know what? The only thing that I can say gives people true freedom. And
what's that?
You can read the Bible. You can watch the news. You can get involved with politics all you want. It's not going to take away from your very basic needs. You need to eat. Period. You have to be able to eat. And you won't be able to function with a straight mind or be able to talk to anybody unless you can provide yourself your own food. And unless you have your own food, you're going to be at the mercy of somebody else. So don't just pray for your daily bread. Make it.
I do both. And in fact, I cut myself off from it once in a while.
From food?
Yep.
What do you mean, a fast?
Mm-hmm.
What does that do exactly? I've always heard people say, oh, I'm fasting right now. I don't understand it. Why would you make yourself go hungry?
To weaken your flesh and increase your sensitivity to things of the spirit.
It's not to lose weight?
No. It's actually very good for you, too.
I understand that there's good results from doing it. I just don't know. But you say to weaken your flesh?
Yeah.
Why would somebody want to weaken it?
To weaken your flesh, because your flesh, if you walk after your flesh, you will go after and seek desires that are against your best interest a lot of the times. If you can hone in and increase your sensitivity to the things of the Spirit, specifically God, every prophet that there was fasted. Jesus fasted. Jesus said he was talking about a type of devil that a man was possessed by, and nobody could cast it out of this man. And Jesus said, this kind only cometh out by prayer and fasting. And I've known men in the past that fast and pray, and they had a power about them, a presence of God that is so powerful that it's almost undescribable. And there was I heard one of them explaining it. There was a safe cracker guy who was a master at busting into safes, and there was a county that they found an old safe in the state house in the basement where he lived, and they brought in that safe cracker, and he got some sandpaper and he was filing his fingertips, reducing the layers of skin. And he said that was so that when he was turning the dial, if you increase that sensitivity, you could feel the tumblers falling into place in the lock when you hit the right combination. And he said it's kind of the same thing with fasting, where you're removing those layers of things of the world and the flesh that get in between you and God in order to get something from him or hear him on a matter. And so
okay, that made more sense. That makes more sense now, because at first I thought you were just fasting to reduce horniness. When you first put it out there, it's like you want to reduce the pleasures of the flesh. That's the way I took it at first, but now I'm starting to think, okay, you fast. It's kind of like dieting. It can take some of the chemicals that you've put into your brain, reduce that, like fluoride or any of these other things that we eat that could be interfering with your senses. Does that sound more like what you were talking about?
Yeah. Well, and we were commanded to. You're commanded to fast if you're a Christian. And when you dust off those old weapons, remember we were reading the book of Esther, and it was commanded that everybody was going to be murdered on a certain date, and the king was tricked into it. And what they did was they fasted for 3 days. And so they couldn't alter the law that a certain people were to be killed in one day. And so what the king did was made another law to arm them more heavily and to be able to fight back if anybody came at them. That came about as a result of fasting, right? Or, well, that's how it went anyway. Psalm 78, give ear, O people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. Now, this is going to be a prophecy that you're going to hear concerning God when he showed up in the flesh. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children, showing to the generation to come the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wonderful works, which he hath done. And then for the rest of the chapter, he talks about how the people were given everything they needed. Everything they needed when they came out of Egypt, and that they were fed, they had water, they were guided by a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. Food was just abundant, but they still complained and said, we came out of Egypt, now we're just going to die in the wilderness. And God was angry and caused them to wander for 40 years before ever coming to the promised land. And that generation wasn't even allowed in, just for not believing. So he says, I'm going to show up one day and I'm going to speak in parables. Why would you do that? Well, let's all turn to Matthew chapter 13. We're going to go through some of the more famous parables. because like you can just sit down and read this book and it will not make any sense to you.
I agree with
that. Yeah.
Okay.
You need somebody that knows the author, and then it can actually benefit you greatly and it'll come alive. And a lot of people have told me that I'm very good at doing that. Well, it's not me. It's the time I spend in prayer, because I ask him, don't let it be me. We want to hear from you. I just have to be the conduit.
Do you mind explaining what exactly you mean by a parable?
Okay, so a parable is a story meant to illustrate a point.
Okay.
It could be an allegory, or it could be actually something that happened. Jesus will say, there was a certain man, right? And then he'll tell a story of a situation that happened and how it pertained to his salvation and living for God, whether it was somebody who was a hypocrite and was setting themselves up for destruction, or how somebody that, say, he talked a lot about Samaritans, because Samaritans were hated. They were considered dogs or mixed breed. You're not completely Jewish, right? Therefore, you are garbage. And Jesus gave a lot of parables where he said, look, the Samaritan did this, and the rabbi and the Pharisee and the doctor did this. Who was following God's will? Because they had it in their head, we are the Jews, we are the bloodline of Abraham, therefore we're chosen and we can do whatever we want. And Jesus said, no, you can't. And the kingdom of God will be taken away from you because you are a hypocrite. And I hate that. And so he used that example a lot in dealing with them, because they got it in their head that they were so chosen that they could treat people however they wanted. And Jesus would say, yeah, you see that this dirty Samaritan that you hate so much, he's actually doing God's will more than you are. And it was meant to shame them.
Interesting. I'm just going to refresh my coffee, so I'm going to so I can still hear you while I'm making it, and you get started there, bud.
I'm going to too. Hey, Jen!
Ozzy! Shit.
You throw my coffee cup, honey? Please?
I need a Jen.
Well, everybody needs a Jennifer, trust me.
Ozzy's not going anywhere.
Is there a little bit? Okay, great. Yeah, I'm a very, very lucky man, let me tell you right now.
You are. I
am. She's beautiful, and she makes me a huge supper. Like I eat like a king, man. Yeah. And God really has blessed us in that in this time. Our situation was very uncertain with work and things like that. And I just said, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to just ask God to take care of it. And he gave us something that I'm not going to get into detail on, but it was such an answer. And yeah, so just ask him what you need. Thank you, sweetheart.
Well, I asked him this morning to give us the most viewers we've ever had at a church, because I feel like people need it the most right now. I see just a glimpse at the news and what's being enforced out there. I hope more people find meaning in all this.
Well, you know what? He said that Jesus said himself, broad is the pathway that leads to destruction, and many will go in. He said narrow is the way that leads to salvation, and there's only going to be a few. Most people are not going to be saved. In fact, most people are not going to hear this and actually do something with it. Like he said, he would leave the 99 in order to save the one. There's a gathering going on right now, but most men will not repent, and I expect it because he said it. But you're here if you're watching right now. And
you know who else showed up that I'm surprised to see is Quick Dubs. He's normally a late night guy, but he made it. He does the after show for the Ragecast. For those of you that don't know him, he always does an after show, usually to talk about what Rage was talking about, and he does a lot of his own content as well. So glad to see you here, Dubs. Glad you can make it.
Right on, man.
And with that, I don't have a gen. I'm gonna get my coffee.
Okay, I'll get going here. You need a gen, buddy.
Yes, I do.
He came back just to say that. Ladies, he's advertising. Okay. Matthew chapter 13. We're going to get into parables. Remember Psalm 78? He prophesied, in that day I will open up my mouth and teach in parables. Well, he showed up, and here he is. Chapter 13. Same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the seaside. Great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. Okay, so there's all these people on the shore, and so he gets into a boat so that he can get out of the crowd and speak to them. And back then, there were no PA systems, so I got to think that he probably had a pretty good set of pipes on him to be able to speak to a throng of people like that. That's just me. And he spake many things unto them in parables. There's that word, right? Saying, behold, a sower went forth. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside. So this sower is, he's planting seeds, right? He's got a bag of seeds, and he's throwing them on the ground, hoping that they grow. Right? So that you have a crop, you have food, you can sell it or you can eat it or whatever the case might be. But I'm just giving you the situation. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. So some of those seeds, the birds ate them. Some fell on stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Sometimes when I get loud, I cough. But so tells this story, and it's like it seems like most of that seed that was planted was either eaten by birds or fell on rocky ground. There was no depth of soil for the roots to take root, and they died. Most of it was unproductive. But the stuff that was productive was really productive. Okay? And just, Derek, give me 1 second. I have to run into the kitchen for 1 second and just talk to everybody. I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah, I was listening to that. I have to go again there after my coffee's done boiling. Yeah, it's very informal, the church that we have going here. It's just Mike explaining the word to the rest of us, basically, and me asking ridiculous questions every once in a while. It would be nice to see us get more numbers. Hopefully everybody's around tonight as well for the normal Plaid Army stream. I'll be talking about a couple of additions that I've made to my kits, a couple of things that are going on across the country, and I don't know. We'll see who we can get out there. Maybe Dubs, if you're around tonight, maybe you can join me for the Plaid Army stream. We'll have you on as a guest, and I'll bring up stories and whatnot to talk about. NB Canoeist. This is church the way it was meant to be done. I guess so. This feels more natural than sitting in pews and in an intimidating building. And I haven't been into a whole lot of churches. There's some that I've been into that are absolutely beautiful, but for the most part, when I go into them, I find them intimidating. I don't know if they're meant to be that way, or I don't know. I like this one a whole lot better. That's for sure. Good morning, Arya, Allison. I can't say that name. Green, Grin and Grinfidel or something.
Sorry about that, Eric. I do this to you every Sunday, don't I?
No, I got to do it to you again. My coffee's just finished boiling. So,
all right, your turn. Okay, so we just looked at this parable of the sower, the seeds. Most of the seeds did not produce. And the disciples came, said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? And he answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever has, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I unto them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted. I'll heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. So, this is hidden from certain people. These words are not for everybody. All are called, but few are chosen. Some are going to hear it and say that's foolishness, and I can't see any reasonable thinking man believing that. But to some people, they're going to see what it is. And those are the ones that it's meant for. And it's going to be all out in the open for everybody to see. But only a precious few are going to actually act on it. That's who we're looking for today. I would that it was everybody. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. So Jesus is going to explain now to these guys that just asked him, well, why do you speak in parables? Right? He says, when anyone heareth the word of the kingdom and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received seed by the wayside.
Whereabouts are you, Mike, so I can catch up again?
Just about to go to verse 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So that seed that the sower threw to the ground and went on by the wayside, that's people that heard this word and they don't believe it. And so Satan comes and just steals it away from them right away. It has no effect. It doesn't take root. It doesn't grow. It doesn't produce results. And but he that receiveth the seed in stony places, the same as he that heareth the word, and anon with joy. So this person is excited. Yet hath he no root in himself, but dureth for a little while. For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. So there's people that are going to be excited to hear this ancient wisdom that Jesus is revealing, and then they're going to find out that the world is hostile towards it, and they'll be mocked and punished, receive tribulation, and they'll quit because they got no depth. They don't see value in the things of say 100 years from now. no depth.
Funny you mentioned that. I got a lot of shit from people just for wanting to learn this book. You're taking a step backwards, and you're not moving forward, and all this stuff. It's a waste. It's a cult. It's all this and that.
Yeah, I've heard it all.
Yeah. So I just want to know exactly where we are. I know you're in Matthew, and you said 20, but what?
Okay, so chapter 13.
Mm.
And now we're going to verse 22.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just give you a second to find where we are here.
13, 22. Like I said before, it's like reading a code book. Yeah, you got to look up this one and what is it relevant to, and yeah, something I got to get used to for sure.
You know, it's funny when you mention that people will mock you for even wanting to look at it. Well, it's funny because they're actually doing what Jesus said certain ones would. It's like they're fulfilling prophecy even by doing that.
Yeah.
And right?
It can't hurt, can it? Like, why would anybody want to? Anything that people say I'm not allowed to read or I shouldn't read, that's the one I always end up reading.
Yep. That's it. 22. He also that received seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. Right? What good is it for me to know the Bible? I should concentrate on making money more than the things of God. So temporal riches or just becoming rich or whatever the case might be, if that is your priority, you cannot have the things of God. You can't. Jesus gave another parable of a man that he had bumper crops. He had to build new barns to hold all of his grain. He had so much. And he said, you know what? I have stored up enough that I don't ever have to work the rest of my life. And I can just rest back and take it easy now because it's all taken care of. That responsibility is gone. And now I can do whatever I want. And God said to him, thou fool, this night is your soul required of thee. You took no thought for what was going to happen after you die. And God called him a fool. Now, people around him probably loved him and talked about what a great guy he was. Probably a huge funeral. And look how he provided for his family, right? God said, you're a fool. Because you don't care about the things of eternity. And that is where your life is a vapor. This life that you're in right now is like a blade of grass. You are not going to be beautiful forever. You are not going to be sure of every step that you put in front of the other forever. That's going to go really fast. And then the only thing that's going to matter after that is what you learned or actually gave care that you could carry into eternity. Goes on, 23. But he that received seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. And so there you have the explanation. Now, he talked a lot about husbandry or farming because God made everything, right? Remember we were talking about Genesis, Derek. He causeth every seed to bring forth after its own kind, right? So you have a seed. It's got genetic information. You put it in dirt, and that little tiny seed will make a whole tree that will make apples with more seeds. And so all of these things were given to us to live. I mean, I'm not saying that you should never eat again. You're so spiritual. On the contrary. What he said, we need to use these things as examples, right? And so he gave it parables. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Now, a tare looks like wheat, but it's useless. And it'll get in there, and you cannot, it's difficult to separate. So the servant of the house, I got to go back. Verse 26, but when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst thou not sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? Now they're discovering what happened, and the servants ask him, how did this happen? We know your seed was good. He saith unto them, an enemy has done this. The servant said unto him, wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? He said, nay, lest while you gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them. He didn't want to damage the good stuff by uprooting the bad stuff at the time. Now, where's he going with this story? Let's see. Let both grow together until the harvest, and in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Now, he gives an explanation of that a little bit later, but in between, he gives two more, the mustard seed and 11. I want to skip down to verse 34. All these things spake Jesus unto the multitude in parables. And without a parable spake he not unto them, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. Remember, that was the first verse I read?
Right.
So what he was doing was fulfilling prophecy by speaking in that way. And when Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. Tell us what you meant by that. Even they were having a hard time figuring out, and they were the hand-picked disciples. They lived with him. They followed him. They ate with him. And they still needed an explanation. And I'm glad that they did, because now we get one because of it. And he answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. But the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity. So sinners, unrepentant sinners that love it. Just, it's great.
And we get to go live in a barn? I'm already here, buddy.
Explanation, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. So when I started doing this with you, a verse was brought to my attention. The harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. And that was kind of another thing that made me decide to get back on track, not just for my own sake, but there's a lot of people turning to God right now because of this situation that we see in the world. We see a time. Growing up, I was told that there would come a time when all men would be forced to receive a mark whereby they might buy or sell. Without it, they can't, right? I never saw that being even a remote possibility. How would you do that, right? When I was a kid?
Right.
Now I see a possibility of that. And Jesus said, How is it that you can see the clouds coming from the east and know that it's going to rain, but you can't see the times around you and know what's going to happen? And so there's a gathering going on. Some of you are going to make it. Some of you are not. It's just the nature of the game.
Looks like what I asked earlier has come true. We've got 70 people on DLive and 20 on YouTube. So I think that's the highest numbers we've pulled on church and on Sunday. So interesting. Right. Rage decided to grace us with his presence this morning as well. I think it's his first time at church, I think, too. Our church, anyway.
Well, good to have you here, Jeremy. God can fix anything. And everybody that's here, you're here for a reason. Book of Luke, chapter 15. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. We're going to the book of Luke, chapter 15. That man in Florida that I talked to yesterday, that's another thing too. If people contact, my cowboy hat just fell off of my speaker on my monitor and knocked my microphone over.
I think that means you're supposed to put it on.
That cowboy hat is a reminder to me of when I was the absolute worst person on the planet. I was a terrible, terrible guy. I was a lead singer and I was a drummer, and I played in rock bands, and I found that I could drum and sing 3 sets of 10 songs a night. I could play for 3 hours. I could remember lyrics to songs, like 30 or 40 of them, and drum and sing all night. And I would wear that cowboy hat, and women just loved me. They really dug the hat. And you know what? I thought that I was the coolest person on the planet, and I could do anything I wanted. And I was a real piece of garbage. My friend Joey is here watching. Hello, Joe. And he remembers that. Actually, we both started acting like idiots and ended up not speaking to each other for several years. But Joe has been following our Bible studies, and we've kind of made amends with each other. And great to have you back, Joe, and great to have myself back. Because
well, I did. There was a point where I met you. I wouldn't have recognized you without the hat and sunglasses.
Yeah. That was me thinking I was awesome. And I started things started getting thin up top, and I couldn't deal with it at first, and so I had to wear the hat because I was a very vain guy, like a peacock, very vain. And now I am way more concerned with the things of the spirit. And you know what? My marriage is awesome. My family, my mom, my brother and sister, my sons, we're really tight. And if I had stayed in that mode, I would have lost everything. And it would have been because I was doing what I wanted. I would have lost everything because I was getting what I wanted. And when you start doing things that other people want, surprise, your life gets better. When you start serving God, speaking truth, reaching out to people, I could not, in the middle of all this pandemic crap, my life has gotten better. I'm not joking. It just gets better and better all the time. Luke chapter 15, verse 11. Now, this is a little trap. This is a trick that Satan will use to make you think that you cannot go to God. You can't ask him for anything. You can't. You're so unworthy that you can't go to your Creator and ask him for help or to be set free. That you have to accept your lot because you screwed up so bad that you can never be forgiven and you're irredeemable. But let's see what God has to say about it. Another parable. He said a certain man had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. So he said, what this kid said was, I want my inheritance. I don't want to wait till you die. I want it now. And the father gave it to him. And we can glean from the story that this father was fairly wealthy. He had people working for him. He had animals. He had, you know what I mean? And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. He partied. He took his inheritance and he blew it. Now, when he did that, that put him in a position where you're dead to rights. You are dead to your family. With that situation, you say to your father, I want my inheritance now, and leave the country, you're pretty much disowned. You're dead to rights. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land. And he began to be in want. He's getting hungry now. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. Now, do you know how demeaning it would be to a Jew back then to feed pigs?
More demeaning than a Muslim having to feed them?
Same principle.
Okay.
Yep. That's why Muslims don't eat pork, because of the Torah, the Old Testament, the Mosaic Law. Yep. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husks that the swine did eat. No man gave unto him. So he was so hungry he'd eat the pig food, the husks, corn husks, real nutritious. And when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. So, Dad, I know that I've screwed up so bad that you can never take me back as your son. I've blown my inheritance. Can I please just have a job? Like just working in the barn is better with you than being out in the world, is what he said. And I'm no worthy. I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I've felt that before.
Yeah.
Especially if you lose a parent. Just having them back or wanting to be anywhere near them is so much more fulfilling than having a high-paying job in the city or something. I just want to acknowledge 2 donations here before you go on there. Mike Rage with a diamond saying, world tells us to do what you want and self-serve. And Philosopher just donated a diamond. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that going forward. And I actually should have Mike's link up here if you guys do want to donate to Mike and support the work that he is doing. I think I have that there. You can send him a donation at PayPal if you like.
Well, and like with Jeremy's comment there, that is the core tenet of Satanism. Do as thou wilt. Do as thou wilt. Do what you want. Jesus says, die and be reborn and follow me. And if you do that, you'll have enough. You'll be taken care of. You'll be given what you want, even though it seems contrary to what your flesh or your impulses. I mean, why do people do drugs? They want to feel good.
Yeah.
Why do people sleep with multiple other people? Well, because it feels good and they're driven to do it. Right?
If anybody watches the Bears and Owen Benjamin, they call it squirting. And squirting doesn't just mean, masturbating at home or something, but it does fall into that category. They consider that with everything. You get off by watching fear porn, by watching the news. Oh, look at that. Donald Trump versus Biden. Who's going to win? They're all corrupt, blah, blah. You're just squirting over watching another movie. Or, save it. Save it and you'll feel a lot better instead of going into your impulses, in other words.
Deny yourself. Remember we were talking about fasting earlier?
Right.
That's what it is. Because if you take everything that you want, number one, you'll hurt yourself. Number two, you will not be doing God's will and you'll be cut off. But number three, the worst part of it all is that in a quest to fulfill your own desires above all, you will hurt the people that you love the most. And that's the worst part of it. But the good news is, God can fix that. He can fix any situation. In fact, he loves a fixer-upper. He got criticized by the Pharisees because he would go and have dinner with the tax collectors and the prostitutes, and because they figured that they were so Jewish and so seed of Abraham that they could do no wrong. Whatever they did, there was no sin to them. That was for the little people. Right? And Jesus was like, no, I came to find the lost ones. So here you got this kid. He is dead to rights. But if I can just go get a job with my dad, I'll be better off than being outside of the will. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe and put it on him. And put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring hither the fatted calf and kill it and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to be merry. Now, the elder son was in the field, and as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing. So this guy's out working, and he's the older son. And he doesn't know what's going on. He called one of the servants and asked him what these things meant. He said unto him, thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he hath received him safe and sound. And he was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him, and he answering said to his father, lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgressed I at any time thy commandment, and yet thou never gavest me a kid, that I might make merry with my friends. But as soon as this thy son has come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. This guy took your inheritance and blew it on hookers and cocaine. And I've been here this whole time working, and you never threw a party for me. And he said unto him, son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. And it was meet that we should make merry and be glad, for this thy brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found. And ladies and gentlemen, that's me. I walked away. I lived riotously. And about, 8 months ago, I believed that I had gone so far that I had blown it. I was dead to rights. And he just started calling out to me. And when you feel that power, you cannot deny it. I've seen very strong men break down in tears because they felt the presence of God and that mercy and that grace and that unconditional love that comes with it. You can have that. Now I've got to go because I've got people showing up at the house here in 20 minutes. Last Sunday was great. We had you and Laura And then Kevin J. Johnston and Peter Downing. It was like Canadian Freedom All-Star Day at the Phillip House. But that I don't care that it was Laura Lane Thompson or Peter Downing or Kevin J. Johnston. Everybody listening, this is for you. God is real. He has a name, and he loves you. And he does not want you to be separate from him. He has made a way. And not only that, but he can fix things in this life that seem so messed up. Like it's so damaged that there's no coming back from it. He likes that. He likes to prove his power and his mercy on the worst situation. So if you're listening to me right now and that's you, try it. Ask. Does it hurt to ask? Get by yourself somewhere and call out to him. You don't have to yell. You don't have to. By yourself with the door shut, nobody around. Just talk to him like I'm talking to you right now, or me or Derek are talking to each other. You need something. You need something fixed. You need your life fixed. He can do it. If he can do it for me, he can do it for you. Because I had made a mess of things, and God has cleaned up a lot of it, and I've seen him do it over and over in other people's lives too. I'm going to say a quick prayer, and then I'm going to let y'all go. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for what you've done for me. I'm so thankful. I have made such a mess, and Lord, thank you so much that I'm able to get together with these people and speak and bring your word forth. And I pray that seed would get into the right mind and the right heart and produce results that people would be added to your kingdom and lives would be overhauled and repaired. Thank you so much for your mercy. In Jesus' name, amen. Everybody have a great day. And if you need prayer or whatever, you want to talk, head over to americanuckradio.com and hit the contact button. And I always respond. Lots of you have through private messages on Twitter or the contact button by email. Some of you have my phone number. You can text me. I will, if you need to pray for something, I will make time, okay? I promise you that. And we've been doing a lot of it lately, and that's what it's all about. So don't let this fall aside. Don't let this be forgotten. Think about it, and choose ye this day whom you will serve. Yourself, the world, or your creator, who has gone to great lengths to make it possible. And you won't be disappointed. Derek, thank you so much for opening up your channel. And
thank you for coming and hosting. I appreciate it. I'm going to stick around for maybe 2 minutes on DLive. I'm going to shut it down on the 2 YouTube channels that we're broadcasting on, just to talk to my peeps. So thanks, Mike. We appreciate it. And yeah, take care of yourself, bud. All right, we're going to shut her down on YouTube.